Gopi Janavallabha Giranadari Yasodanandana Bhajanana Ranjana Yasodanandana Bhajanana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Giranadari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Giranadari Yasodanandana Bhajanana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Srila Prabhupada Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna. So we'll say a little prayer again, always invoking the blessings of Guru and Krishna. Om Jnanatimurandasya Gina Gina Shalakaya Chakshur Unmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual masters are kindly opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances to them again and again. Mam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Stai Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachayani Nirvishesha Shrimati Vishnu.
Within the stand.
Please, dear Srila Prabhupada and Krishna, please bless this assembly, bless this session we are going to have on detecting and disarming the false ego. Please bless us so that we may come to deeper understandings of how to serve you, and that our intentions may be fulfilled, creating a space for us to serve you more deeply. Hare Krishna. Okay, I think I'm going to have to change this because I might take Hare Krishna. Good morning. Okay, so is everybody ready? Hari Bol. I can see that we're a little bit on Indian stretchable time here. But I'm imagining more and more people will be coming. So I'd like to start this session with a little review of yesterday. I'm going to stand up. And is it possible to get some water? It would be helpful, just in case my throat goes out. Okay, so this is a participatory seminar. I'm going to give you some tips. However, your participation is very important. It's the same with our relationship with Krishna. Our participation is important. So we may, thank you, that works. We may chant, and we may read. We're actually wanting to develop a relationship with Krishna. We do have a relationship with Krishna. We're trying to revive that relationship. We are all part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna's made us. He hasn't made a mistake. And we become covered over by all these layers of ego mechanism and protection and proving and pain. We become covered over. But we're trying to revive our relationship. So the processes of Krishna consciousness, chanting, hearing, reading, serving, these are meant to help us to develop a relationship. These are not mechanical processes. These are meant to reveal the areas where we're stuck, to reveal the things we still need to work on. These processes are actually meant to reveal our ego mechanisms. What happens generally, though, is that when our ego mechanisms get revealed, we do everything we can to cover them over. We do everything we can to cover them over. So we're chanting, and then if the ego gets revealed, we do everything we can to cover it over. You know, we talk about the elephant taking the bath and then throwing the dirt on top again. So we have to be conscious of, where am I perpetuating, where am I holding on to the things that are preventing me from having a relationship. A lot of times we'll hear in scriptures, or we're told, and it's reinforced, if we just chant Hare Krishna, everything kind of dissolves magically, right? Some of us have that thing that automatically everything will just be evaporated automatically. Well, not if we keep holding on to it. The process is there to help us. But if we keep holding on and covering over, it's going to take a lot longer. It's not just an external mechanical process. It's a conscious process. It takes conscious participation. It's not an unconscious process. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Okay, I'm going to read a few little verses here. Okay, I'm good for the day. Now, sometimes when we're really stretched and stressed, sometimes that's the best we can do. And we're always meant to do our best. But that process will not get us to revive our relationship. And probably it won't give us a lot of deeper satisfaction. So if we do that, which I did that, I mean, I did pray, but I was more on the external level for 27 years, working really hard, chanting, going to the programs, doing everything I was told by my authorities. I did everything right. But it was an external process. And there was, of course, we all begin with some kind of material motivation. I was really trying to get some love, some pats. Now, after 27 years, I hit a wall, and I was quite frustrated with myself. How could I be so angry after doing all the right things for 27 years? How could that be? I did everything right. I mean, really. How could that be? What's going on here, Krishna? This doesn't make sense to me. I should be a pure devotee by now. What's going on? And the wall that I hit, which I talk about in the book, I didn't even know what the wall was. But I felt so depressed. I just wanted to quit. I wanted to kill myself. It's like I did all the right things and it didn't work. So I might as well just quit or kill myself. But then I couldn't kill myself because we know what happens when you do that. So thanks a lot, Krishna. Thanks a lot. There's no way out of this. What? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? That was the conversation I had with Krishna. What? What do you want? You must want me to look at something. It's probably something I haven't looked at for a long time. Maybe not even in this lifetime. But I don't know what it is you want me to look at. If you want me to look at something, I keep hitting it. I keep hitting my head against it. You got to show me what it is. You got to show me what it is. Does anybody know what it was? Does anybody know what it was? My false egos. All of them. And I had suppressed all of my emotions, which emotions are actually signals that Krishna is giving us to wake up. He's not giving us these signals so that we suppress them. You know what happens when you ignore the early warning signals of cancer, right? Then you're in stage 4, and then you can't really reverse the process. He gives us early warning signals. That's what the emotions are trying to show us. Hey, there's something here you're getting upset about. You're not being able to be equipoised. What's going on there? What's happening inside of you? It's a conscious process. And that's why detecting and disarming the false ego is such an important part of it. Every time we detect it, and we'll learn ways to disarm it, every time we do that, we're declaring, I, the soul self, am the owner of this body. And I want to manage my false egos. I don't want them to manage me. I want to manage my false egos and somehow use them in the service of Krishna. But I don't want them to manage me, because then I'm on autopilot. And you know what happens automatically in this material world? We think, oh, we're going to chant, we're going to automatically become purified, like magic. You know what automatically happens in this material world? What automatically happens? What's that? What did you say? What did you say? Degradation? Well, what happens is samsara. Samsara is there all along. And if we aren't conscious, if we're on autopilot, we will automatically reinforce action, reaction, action, reaction, action, reaction, and then we'll be coming back to reap the reactions of our actions. We'll automatically come back, because that's the process of samsara, of action, reaction, of karma. That's the process. We know that, and yet we don't necessarily pay so much attention to our actions and reactions. We think, I'm doing all this good devotional service. Okay, that's going to cover all the rest of the things that I'm doing that aren't working. The devotional service and the process is meant to help us to become aware. Where can I fine tune this? Why am I getting upset? It's so important that we're curious, rather than being judgmental. Oh, I'm so bad. I'm so fallen. He's so mean. She's so slow. I'm just making this up. Don't take it personal, please. Instead of being judgmental, we could be curious. What do you want, Krishna? Why am I struggling with this? Why am I angry? What is that anger trying to tell me? What are the early warning signals here? What are you trying to signal me? When we couple this awareness with our Krishna consciousness, we have a lot more chance of getting to the bottom, to the root of the issue. We want to get to the soul. We want to get to the soul. That means we got to start digging. We got to start being curious. Instead of just doing the outside external processes, we got to dig and start doing all those internal processes. Right? So the second book is a lot about the anartas. It's about our habits. And, we read about anarta nivritti, but we also think that, they will automatically be kind of dissolved when we follow the process, right? Something like that. We wish that would be that easy. But even in the material world, anything that's precious, it costs something, right? And we're looking for the most precious thing. We're looking for love of God. That's like more than precious. It's invaluable. It's like, and it's going to just cost us our awareness. Can we be aware? Can we be conscious? Can we be intentional? Can we be curious? So asking questions is a really, really, really big part of growing. Little kids, you notice little kids, they're like so curious about everything, right? And they're growing at a rapid rate. You see kids like, they're like sponges because they're curious. How do you do this? How do you do that? They're curious. But then when we get to a certain age, I've graduated, I got my MBA, my doctorate, whatever I've got all these things. I know a lot of stuff here. And now I'm going to apply that and work. But we lose our curiosity. And we think we do know something, but sometimes our knowing will get in the way of our growing. If we think, I'm an adult now, I got my degrees, I know what I'm going to do, I got my job, I know what to do. Yes, but if we take that into our Krishna consciousness and we think, I know, this is what we know. We know this. That's about all we know. We don't know if we're going to live tomorrow. We don't know if there's going to be an accident. I just had a very, very good friend of mine, my neighbor in New Vrindavan. And she was in decent health. She's only 2 years older than me. And one day she got dizzy. She fainted. She had a fit. And they rushed her to the hospital. She had a brain aneurysm. And they did some surgeries and different things. But 3 weeks later, because there had been bleeding in the brain, she couldn't sustain her life air. Her brain didn't even know how to breathe. And so she passed away. We don't expect it. That's the biggest illusion, right? We don't think death is going to happen. Now, I'm not saying this to bring fear into the room. Like, oh my gosh, I could die. I gotta get it together really fast. I'm not bringing that into the room for that reason, because sometimes we do also say that philosophy. You got to do this really quick. You got to become Krishna conscious. There's your chance of a lifetime. You're in a human body. You got to jump up there and you got to become a pure devotee really fast. That doesn't work either. I mean, some people who are already advanced from last lifetimes, maybe that works. It didn't work for me. I tried. I jumped, and I held it together for 27 years until it all broke apart. So it doesn't generally work because we can't cheat the process. We can't cheat the process. The process is gradual for a reason, because it has to be real. It has to be realized. It's not a mechanical memorization, pass the test, forget everything kind of a process. It's a gradual integration of the lessons that we learn day by day, the lessons we learn personally, the lessons we learn with our family, with our children, the lessons we learn in our jobs, the lessons we learn with our spouses. Those lessons are so much a part of our spiritual life, but we tend to say, well, that's my material life. And when I'm just doing devotional service in the temple, distributing books, that's my spiritual life. When I'm chanting, that's my spiritual life. Everything else is my material life. That perspective doesn't give us a very integrated life. It kind of divides our life, and it makes us feel, I should be doing that, I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be with my kids, I should be in the temple, I should be, and it really divides us. But if we really see that every aspect of our life is really a part of our growth and maturity and understanding, you know, when you can really learn, you can learn a lot from kids. They teach you patience, they teach you presence, and our bosses can teach us a lot. Our spouses can teach us really a lot because they know us better than anybody else. Now, we may not want to hear it. However, they are good mirrors to help us reflect. If we can be curious, So why aren't we curious? I would say it's because we're so stressed, we're so stretched that we don't take the time to be conscious. We're on autopilot, like the little yellow bird in the blue book with the eyes like a robot. We're on auto default mechanism. Autopilot, just we know how to do things. So that's our knowing. Our knowing, we know a lot of things. We know how to drive. We can drive and talk at the same time. We know a lot of things. It's what we don't know that we want to be curious about. Because in those areas, that's where some deep, precious secrets are shown to us. Okay, that was an intro. That was not on my chart there, but that's what came out. I wanted to ask you, how many of you did the homework last night? Okay, some of you did, and some of you forgot. How many of you forgot to do the homework? It's okay, raise your hand. Thank you for being honest. Appreciate that. And how many of you didn't understand the homework? Okay, a couple of you. Yeah. So I want to hear from some of you who have done the homework. What did you see in how many shoulds and should nots that you discovered between last night and this morning? Who would like to share what they discovered, what they saw, or even how many shoulds and should nots they discovered? Do we have any takers?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Few shoulds be which I observed as like if I visit somebody's house or if I'm visiting someone, I'll be thinking that they should not be unclean. They should be minimalistic. They should be. They shouldn't be getting a plate.
Oh, the people that you're with, you're passing a judgment on them. They should be this way. They should get up early. Yeah. Yeah. And what did you when you discovered that about that judgment you had in the head about them? You know, what did you feel? Did you feel some resistance in your body to like how it was, like how their house was and how they were? Was there a resistance there?
No, it's not resistance, but I've faced many times, and I repeatedly see that. So that's why I again.
Okay.
But one thing I felt was that doesn't reflect their thought process or their feeling. That might be their way of life, but that doesn't reflect their nature. That's something else.
It may just be one little tiny opinion I have. I really like cleanliness and I really like to get up early. So then when somebody doesn't, I notice that. So it's a judgment. Yeah, we make judgments based on what we like and what we're used to. Okay? Somebody else, did you notice anything about the shoulds or should nots?
usually when we speak about,
Here comes the mic, thanks.
usually when I talk about myself, of what I have done, what I have achieved, sometimes unconsciously we'll over glorify.
You
Yeah.
glorify
Or
yourself?
sometimes, me, myself,
Yeah,
over
yeah.
glorify that I have done this, but
Uh-huh.
there is a truth, but we over glorify. But when somebody does the same thing, you think that this fellow is over glorifying. I came across that situation last night.
You kind of say he shouldn't be glorifying himself.
Yes.
Ah, that's cute. Very cute. Thank you for sharing that. And it's so funny. It's so easy for us to, point the finger at somebody else and say, oh, look at that's their ego. Look how they're glorifying themselves. But when it comes to us, we change it a little bit. I'm just acknowledging the things that I did, I'm just like trying to share with people, some things that I did. So that,
And then there is another one.
Okay.
So when we came to know that through a genuine source, we became the topic of discussion, gossiping to somebody. I felt bad, but we do the same thing sometimes.
Yes, we do. Because it's so much easier to talk about somebody else's life and analyze and pull apart and judge and criticize, critique. We're so good at doing that. But when we go back to Godhead, when we are going to leave this body, is Krishna going to ask us, oh, are you your brother's keeper? Did you make sure everybody was doing what they needed to do? Where is your consciousness at? What about you? What did you do for you? Now, this internal work, working on our own consciousness, being aware of our own consciousness, being aware of what we do, we can't outsource that. We can't outsource that to somebody in another country. Oh, you do the call center, you make my calls for me, and just outsource this work. Nobody can do that work for you. Nobody, not even your guru. He's not going to do that work for you. Krishna's not even going to do that work for you. If you want to hold on and stay in this material world, they're not going to force you. Krishna doesn't force us. It's our own conscious choice. Do I do that? Sometimes I do that. Do I want to do that? So, yeah, thank you so much. It's really important that we look at those things, even gossiping. I really have a rule to not talk about other people. But somebody was doing something for years and it really, really, really bothered me. And then I noticed that I told 2 close friends. I didn't tell the whole world, just 2 close friends. But then I thought, oh my gosh, I am talking about this person. I need to talk to this person. If what they're doing is really bothering me, I need to have a conversation with this person because this stuff, what I'm doing, doesn't work. And so I did. It was a tough conversation. And I prayed and I had the conversation and it took an hour. And that person after the conversation thanked me for it. But that takes a lot of practice. It takes really being conscious of how you're speaking about that person and what you want to share and why you have a concern about what they're doing. That means I got to do 10 times as much work on myself first before I have that conversation with that person. So this is really what these books are about. It's about the internal process of Krishna consciousness, not just the external, but the internal process of Krishna consciousness. Okay, anybody else want to share from them? Please, thank you.
Yeah, Mataji. One thing is for me, it's about time management. So my house, I think that everything should happen on time. And it's very easy for me to point to others that it's not happening on time. So these are the gaps. And I give excuse to myself because I do a lot of things on time. Hence, there is a room not to do certain things on time. But others are doing on the lesser extent, so they are more finger pointed.
Yes. Yes. Were you on time today for the session?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to check. Yeah. We're so good at pointing out about others. It's really what we do. And it's a distraction and a deflection because we don't want to look inside. We're afraid to look inside. We kind of know that we have a few weaknesses, of just a few. We kind of know that. And yet, to look at them, we feel like they're demons. And that's another thing that I wrote in the book too. We think the anartas are demons. We think the false ego is a demon. And we're so afraid because we think this demon is going to swallow us up. Meanwhile, unconsciously, they're gnawing away at us all day long. And by not paying attention, they actually have full control. And actually, when we pay attention and are curious and we look at them, we actually start to have the power over them when we look at them. It's like these are illusory things, illusions. Even in the Battle of Kurukshetra, there were some illusory things, right? And so illusory things are just, they're not real. They're illusory. So when you shine a light on a shadow, the shadow disappears because you're shining a light on it. But if you're running from the shadow and you're running and you're running and you're running, it's like, it feels like it's getting bigger and it's chasing you. And it's really scary. And oh my gosh, I don't want to look at that. But when you turn around and look and shine a light on it, oh, okay, that's not that. I can handle that. It's easier than we think. Okay, thank you all for sharing that. I also wanted to say that exercise, I shouldn't, they shouldn't. I noticed that a lot of people were talking about other people. It's actually a resistance. We're resisting other people, the way they are and the way they aren't. People are the way they are because of how they were brought up and, their habits, and I am the way I am because of my habits, but if I'm resisting that person and judging that person, I'm putting them in a little tiny little box, and I'm not really being able to see and value and respect that whole person. And we do that to ourselves too. We look at ourselves through these tiny judgmental little things. I am so fallen. But we don't really acknowledge how challenging it is to be a soul in a human machine. Actually, to be a soul in a human machine is the most challenging birth there is. The animals are on instinct autopilot. When a predator comes to an animal and scares him, he runs. But he doesn't go and talk to his friends, the other deer, and say, God, that lion was so mean. Oh my gosh, he was so... They shake off the trauma and then they understand by sense what areas to avoid. But there's no judgment there. So now we come into this human mind and oh my gosh, all these thoughts and judgments because we're used to categorizing things, giving things names. So then we put people in boxes so we know how to manage them and maneuver around them. And we put ourselves in a box too. And then we put ourselves in a box and we say, well, that's just the way I am. That's my karma. That's the way it is. I'm stuck. Sorry, that's a lie we tell ourselves. If we're stuck with our karma, and if we're stuck, that means there's no chance of us going back to Godhead because we're stuck. Our karma is what we get, what we receive. What we do with that karma is where we go. So what am I doing? Am I avoiding it? Am I resisting my karma? Am I resisting my karma? I know for a long time I resisted being a female. I wanted to be a boy. My brother punched me, but I loved my brother. He was 2 years older than me. I wanted to play with him. I wanted to be a boy, so I became a tomboy. That's the next best thing I could do. And then I became, I just became, as a devotee, I also resisted being in a female's body because I felt like we got the short end of the stick here. All these men, they're in these big positions. They get to see Prabhupada. They get to go to all these places, and we just have to just do what we're told, and we just have to listen to our husbands, and we can't really have a say in the matter. I felt like kind of got cheated. However, around the age of 42, I started accepting my femininity. And it was phenomenal. I actually saw the gifts of being a female, and I saw the disadvantages of being a male. And I was like, I am so glad I'm a woman. So there are advantages and disadvantages in every form of life. Every mental condition, there are advantages and disadvantages. It's what we've got. Now, what are we going to do with our strengths and our weaknesses? Sometimes we always lead with our strengths and we just hide our weaknesses. But that doesn't really have us be holistic and integrated. It just has us be really strong in one area. So for me, I was like a man. I was really strong in my head. I could figure things out. Really strong in my head. But I was so weak in my heart. I had no relationships with my kids. I unhealthily detached from them. I did what my authority said. I left and traveled collecting money for, more than 10 years and put them with other mothers and put them in the Gurukula. But I left them when they were like 1, 3, and 5. Can you imagine leaving your kids when they're that little? 3 kids I left. So that was me being a man. That was me being as good as the brahmacharis. That was me being strong. But I missed out on all the relationships. I actually sold myself short, and I had no relationship with my kids until they were in their 20s. And I reversed the process and started working from my heart. So there are advantages and disadvantages to whatever we get, but we don't want to sit and complain, oh my gosh, oh man, I hate being a woman, blah, blah, blah. Because then we don't have anything to work with. And we're trying to compete in an area and we're resisting who we are. Whatever we resist persists. So I'm a recovering impersonalist. So I was resisting being a woman, which probably Krishna gave me that to kind of help me to develop some little personalism, some heart stuff. But I resisted it. And so I didn't really get the benefits of that. So whatever we resist persists. When I think I shouldn't be a woman, I should be a man. I shouldn't be a woman, I should be a man. I'm frustrated all the time because I got to live in this body. And then my frustration comes out on other people. I could produce results. I worked really hard. I produced a lot of results. I was so busy being responsible for so many things, I had no time to take responsibility for how I made you feel. What's your problem? I'm not asking you to do something I'm not doing, so what's your problem? I didn't allow for any sensitivity. I was highly insensitive. I produced a lot of results and hurt a lot of people's feelings. So I actually had a lot to clean up when I started discovering what I had done, what my egos had done that didn't work. So that takes us to the next topic, responsibility. Responsibility. So we all have complaints, the shoulds and the should not be's. We all have complaints. And nobody wants to be blamed, but we're so good at pointing the finger at others. So the persistent complaints that we have are some of those voices that you wrote down yesterday in that little exercise. I had asked all of you to kind of maybe circle one of those complaints that seemed to be familiar to you. Does everybody remember that part? Do you remember that one complaint that you circled or ticked that was like, oh yeah, that's something I say all the time. There's not enough time, nobody cares, it's not fair, that complaint. So along with that complaint that we have, then there's a set way of behaving. We behave in a certain way. So maybe we start talking about people, or we start avoiding people, or we just start working harder. We have a set way of behaving. There's a payoff to that. I looked really good as a young devotee. I produced so many results. I looked really good. I looked like I was a good devotee. I looked like I was a strong devotee. I was so right and so righteous, I could defeat anybody. I preached to my parents, something parents don't really appreciate. I was so right and so self-righteous, and I did all the good things. That was the payoff. Look how good I am. My proving, protecting, producing personas. You'll read about them in the book. I was so good. There was a cost. How did I feel? Just angry and frustrated when people didn't do things the way I wanted them to do. How did I feel? Kind of numb to my own feelings. How are my relationships? I only had 2 ways of relating to people. You ready? 2 ways to talk to people. Either you tell me what to do and I do it, or I tell you what to do and you do it. What else is there to talk about? Really? What else is there to talk about? We're just here to produce results. Let's get it done. Come on. The cost was my relationships. So we really want to get present to the cost of our behaviors. So look at your little chart there, your little persistent complaint, and just sit for 2 minutes and just think, write down your persistent complaint. And when you complain that, what do you usually do? Do you get angry, or do you talk about people? What do you usually do when that complaint runs in your head? Do you whine? Do you cry? Do you moan? Do you, what do you do? How do you feel? What's the payoff? What do you get? And what's the cost? So, what's the complaint? What do you usually do? What's the payoff? And what's the cost? So just try your best. Don't worry about exactly getting it perfect or right. I'm not going to grade anybody on this. This is just for your own personal, understanding. So just do that for a minute. Oh, you have a question? No. All right, I'll give you 30 more seconds. All right. So did anybody discover the cost? That's the big thing. You want to really get present to the cost, because then that's going to give you a motivation. Maybe there's something I need to shift in my life. So Did anybody get present to the cost and they want to share the cost? You don't have to share the whole thing. Do I have the microphone? Oh, thank you. You turn it on. I don't know how to turn it on. Sorry. Thank you. Okay, there we go.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
So the cost actually I'm seeing is relationships without heart.
Ah, yeah. And when you get present to that cost, like for my kids, you can never recreate those early years with your kids, once they're grown up. So now that I have grandkids, I'm trying to recreate some relationship with my grandkids and then with my kids also. But you miss out on relationships. And isn't our bhakti tradition about relationships? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to share the cost? Please, back here. And then we'll do some ladies, if any ladies want to raise their hand.
So this is Hare Krishna. So this is regarding a complaint for my own self.
Uh-huh.
And the complaint is that I'm not able to manage my time. I always overpromise, underdeliver. And so then the cost is that there's always so much of tasks on my plate that I freeze, I become numb, and I don't act on anything at all. So the more procrastination.
And the thing is, it might sound a little bad at first when you say that. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable. But actually, having that information is like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? What am I doing? I'm hurting myself. I'm hurting others. This doesn't work. It's not like you're a bad person. You want to help so many people. You want to please everybody, right? But we're not Krishna. We got to really be practical. What can I really do? I overpromise, I overcommit, and then I disappoint everybody because I'm so overwhelmed. I just freeze, distract myself, and then everyone's disappointed. The opposite of what I wanted. And then I get to prove I am such a bad person, right? Your pain persona, first number one, we recreate our karma. And then you go, okay, I'm such a bad person. I got to be really good. I got to say yes to everybody. And you just recreate that cycle. But having that information, oh my gosh, it's a revelation. So when we get present to the lies we're telling ourselves, I think I can do more than I can, then we can start telling the truth. It's like, well, I'd like to help you, but I have, my calendar's pretty packed right now, keeping a calendar. And then just saying, I'm so sorry, I'd like to help you, but if I say yes, I'm going to end up disappointing you because I won't be able to do it. So, better to find someone who has more time. And then you can be honest, and then you can be less stressed, and then you don't have to beat yourself up. It's like we can reverse these processes, but we got to be aware of what we're doing before we can shift that. Thank you. That was really, really, I'm sure there's a lot of people who kind of do that. And so that was really nice of you to share that. Any ladies want to share? Back here, there's one.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You're a persistent complaint. Always I get angry with my kids and raise my voice. And cost I'm paying here is love. They're losing the relationship with them. And the payoff will be I left alone.
The payoff is you're left alone. That doesn't sound like a payoff. That sounds like a cost.
Yeah.
That's another cost. So the payoff is maybe you get to be right.
Frustrated also.
You get to be right that, I don't know, whatever your pained persona says, I'm like a lousy mom or blah, 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 whatever you're saying, you get to be right about that, but then you lose love and affinity and you're left alone. And probably, I bet you have a fear of being left alone.
Yes.
Yeah, see, there you go. But then you do the very thing that actually perpetuates what you're, sorry, I thought it was falling, what you're afraid of. So that's what we do. We sabotage, self-sabotage. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing that. It's revelationary. We got to be, in order to realize, we got to realize what we're doing. And then we'll have a lot more understanding. Are there any other ladies who would like to share? She'd like to share? Please. Thanks.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Actually, what I will do, I always create some expectations to my kids that they have to do this, and for myself, okay, today I have to complete. But sometimes it not happens.
Yeah.
Kids don't want to do that.
Yeah,
much.
yeah, yeah.
Kids create frustration on me.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I yell,
Yeah.
I yell on them, and they create. Oh, why she is shouting?
Yes.
It's such a small thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This thing happens every day with me.
Yeah.
I create in the morning. I just started. Today I do this. But everything is not happening
Yeah.
according to me. Something happens. Someone crying. Or some phone call is came.
Yes,
then
yes,
things
yes,
are
yes.
going delaying,
Yes,
delaying.
yes, yes.
It creates more frustration.
Yes, 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 yes. And the cost is
Cause is
your
people
health.
are feeling mom
Yeah.
Mom is always shouting
Yeah,
on us.
yes.
It happens every day. Let us shout on us. It doesn't bother them.
Well, it doesn't bother them because they're used to it. However, they probably don't like it.
Yeah, we probably don't.
Yeah.
I always don't like.
And you're
now I started that I just keep.
And you're
I'm not telling anything.
great, great, great. And because it's also stressful for you too.
Yes, it's very stressful for me. They are not doing, they are not studying, they are not eating properly. On such a small things, we create so many expectations.
We really do, really do. And then we put stress on ourselves and stress on them. And then they don't even have an appetite to eat because they're so stressed, you know?
Not only appetite, everything. They have to study, they have to eat properly, they have to play properly, they have to behave properly, everything.
Expectations are shoulds. They should do this. They should do that. You're resisting how they are and how they'll naturally develop, and they will learn how to study. Even if they fail something, they'll learn from that. There's consequences to not studying. You know, it's like, hey, you know, you've got a test coming up, and then you let them know, and then let them take a little responsibility. Thank you. Anybody else burning to share? Okay, over here. It's so interesting. It's so interesting, and it really, now I can do something different now that I realize what I'm doing. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So everybody talk about their expectation and they are forcing their expectation to others, and they couldn't get the person they couldn't get. What if we were in the position of the others? Like,
what if what?
We were in the position
of having the expectation on us.
We are getting a lot of expectation,
yes.
And we couldn't satisfy their expectation because we think that this is the right way, or the other, because of that we are getting serious troubles.
Yes, yes. There's a lot of communication issues.
But the other person is not understanding that there is an other way as well. This way, they can be little lenient. That is what our expectation is. But they are not very lenient. They are very stringent. Like, no, this is how. In other way, if you put it, you put a straw. Like, even though we widen our straw, their straws are almost closed.
There you go. There you go. Okay, so some people are really strict. They're perfectionists. They have a lot of expectations. And some people are very flexible. And then they're trying to fulfill everybody else's expectations by being really flexible, right? But we can't fulfill one another's expectations. And unspoken expectations always create misunderstandings and disappointment. Because we don't even express our expectation. Usually we don't express it outright, you know. So when people have an expectation for you, you actually do have a choice. You could say, I hear that you want me to do this, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. I'd like to. If I was Krishna, I would do it for you and everybody else. But I'm not. I'm just a little jiva here, and I'm just trying to manage my own life here, and that's challenging enough. So you could actually say to them, it's not that I don't like you, and not that I don't love you or want to help you, but I just don't have the capacity at this point in time. You know, and, you know, people who have expectations and who aren't taking this course, you know, they may continue to ask, but if you don't fulfill their expectations, you'll just ask somebody else. They'll find somebody else. Don't worry. Yeah. So you need to be able to speak up and say, I hear your expectation. I'm not going to be able to fulfill on that. Who said that you had to fulfill everybody else's expectations? Who said that?
But sometimes we feel that moral obligation is there.
Moral obligation. So where did that come from? Who taught you that when you were young? Moral obligation to fulfill everybody's expectations. But maybe that's not what's actually even possible. Maybe it's not possible. So we got to be real. We got to be honest. We got to be able to, say that. Okay, I'd like to move on, unless somebody else is really burning. Okay, one burning over here. All right. Please pass the mic. Thank you. Please pass the mic. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So basically, my partner, he needs a lot of me time. I mean, a lot of time watching stuff he wants to watch. Or
Okay.
he's kind of a very introvert person, even with me. So I am a very much into him person. I all the time want to talk to him, or all the time want to spend time with him. I want the same with him, but he, being an introvert, kind of gets pissed off when I ask him to let's go out, or take me out, or talk to me, or spend time with me. How do I find peace with this situation?
Okay, we're getting into questions and answers here. I'll answer this, but this isn't really where I wanted to go. That's a man-woman course. Women really like bonding. It's natural according to, I write about it in the book also. It's natural according to our whole cultures of being brought up. Women are more vulnerable, so they like to be more in bonding with groups of people. And they like to talk and bond. That's what women do. That's what women did in the villages. And the men are more independent, and they like to do their own thing, and they're more like they have to figure it out in their own head. Women talk to each other to figure it out. Men try to figure it out in their own head because they're men. So one time a counselor was asking a woman what she wanted in a man, and she gave this description. And he said to her, "You're describing another woman." So we can't expect our man to be a woman. We can't expect our women to be men. There has to be some kind of mutual understanding where we can, work things out. But you want to have your girlfriends too, because your spouse is not going to be your girlfriend. They don't do it like that. But you want to have some relationship, so you got to work out what works and have some girlfriends on the side, and then the men can maybe learn a little bit how to have listening time, because a woman likes to be listened to. And then you respect his man cave time, and then he respects that you need a little listening, but it's not going to be all the time. Generally, they can't do that. So that's it for the man-woman course. Okay, now we're going to go back. Now we're going to go back to this course. Yeah. So now, what we're finding here is, in doing that little exercise, when we really realize what the cost is to our behaviors, what the cost is to these persistent complaints in our head that we believe, these lies that we believe, and what we do, and the reactions that we get, the cost is usually a lot more than the payoff. The cost is a lot more than the payoff. I produced a lot of results. Those results are not going to get me back to Godhead. I really messed up a lot of relationships, which I spent the last 20 years cleaning up. But relationships is what our Krishna consciousness Bhakti tradition is about. It's about relationships. So we really want to get present to the cost and then see, what can I do different? So what can I do different? The first thing is taking responsibility for what I do now. And taking responsibility, I'm going to read you something about responsibility. Okay, before I read it, when you hear the word responsibility, tell me, just maybe shout out, what do you hear when I say the word responsibility? What mean? What does that feel like to you? Responsibility. What's that? Accountability. What do you hear? Ownership. Responsibility. A load. Yes. Burden. Duty. Burden. What's that? Pressure. Yes. Pressure, duty, a load, responsibility, a burden, maybe even blame. Because if I'm taking the load and anything goes wrong, I'm going to be getting all the blame for this. So it's like we tend to avoid responsibility. I mean, not that we avoid it all the time, but it's like that word is even sometimes scary. So I'm going to read you a new definition of responsibility, okay? Responsibility, pay attention here, is not blame, fault, guilt, shame, burden, or obligation. Responsibility begins with the willingness to see and acknowledge the impacts my actions are causing. To see the impacts my actions are causing. Responsibility cannot be imposed on another. Responsibility is a gift we give ourselves. It gives us choice. Okay? So, responsibility is one of our, our gifts. It's a gift, the gift of responsibility. Sometimes we come to Krishna consciousness and we think, oh, Guru Dev, just drag me back to Godhead. I'm such a fallen soul. I'm so bad. Just, you got to drag me back because I am just so bad. So, I don't know if any of you have little 2-year-olds or you've seen little 2-year-olds. And when you want a 2-year-old to go somewhere and they don't want to go somewhere and they throw a tantrum and they lay on the ground and kind of have to pick them up and they're kicking and screaming. It doesn't happen all the time, but once in a while. That's like us saying, Guru Dev, drag me back. We're resisting. We don't take responsibility for shifting, but then, we hand them all the responsibility. Okay, you take me back. I need your mercy. I need your blessings. I need your mercy. I need your blessings. I need your mercy. I need your blessings. Okay. Are you ready to take responsibility? Responsibility gives us choice. It gives us freedom. It gives us, some empowerment to do something about the things that we do that don't work. We're starting to take responsibility. What am I doing that doesn't work? If it's not working, why do I keep doing it? That's insanity, right? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over again and think you're going to get a different result. You're not. So if you want a different result, take stock of the impacts your actions are creating. And then when you can take responsibility for that, you can shift your behavior, which will shift your experience, which will shift other people's experience, which will, oh my gosh, your life can transform. You're not stuck. You can transform by taking responsibility in a powerful way, in a joyful way. It's a gift. It's a gift. Okay. All right. So in the book, I talk about habits. We have conditioned habits. So we're either reinforcing and practicing the same old habits, the same old persistent complaints, which have us behaving in the same old ways. We either keep practicing those same behaviors or we practice something new. So these books are about learning how to practice new things so that we don't go insane and make everybody else insane around us and then be frustrated that we're not getting what we want because we haven't shifted our behaviors. So now I want to read something to you. Okay, the next gift that we're going to talk about is the gift of integrity. You're going to like this one. The gift of integrity. The gift of integrity. Integrity is actually the last leg of Dharma. And in Kali Yuga, Dharma, the bull, only has one leg. He has 4 legs, but the other 3 legs have been kind of chopped off. And that leg is the leg of truthfulness. It's the only leg left. And if we can't have some truthfulness, some integrity in our life, by taking a little responsibility, we have no leg to stand on. That's how important integrity is. You'll see it in the gap. It's the top step on the gap. It's a really long step, integrity. So now integrity again might feel like another pressure. Oh my gosh, I gotta be on time. No, integrity really has you starting to be honest. Because if you gotta be on time and you've scheduled too many things, then you gotta start being honest. I'm scheduling too many things, or I have too much on my mind, and that's why I can't do this. But if you're saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to multitask. I'm going to do this while I'm doing this. I'm going to, you're selling yourself short. Here's a quote. Happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony, when they're aligned with our soul self. So we have a lot of, soul desires, the virtues in our heart. They're already there. We have the qualities of Krishna, right? They're already there. They're inherent, but they're covered over. We have all the qualities of Krishna. We have all the muscles we need. We have those muscles. We're not exercising them. We're not exercising. We're not taking responsibility to exercise them. Say I have an accident and I'm in bed, and so now I have to get physiotherapy, right? I have to learn how to walk again because my muscles have atrophied, right? So we go to the physiotherapist and he tells us to do the exercises. And we don't do them. And he comes and he gives us the exercises, but we're not really seeing a lot of improvement. And then he says, okay, your 10 sessions are over. Keep exercising. But we don't do the exercises. We may be handicapped for the rest of our life, not being able to walk because why? We didn't want to do the exercises. We didn't take responsibility. It's a break in integrity. So in our heart, we all want to be Krishna conscious. We have the virtues. We have the qualities. We have them already. They're there. But we're on autopilot and we just keep practicing those habits that cost us a lot. Okay, that's the gift of integrity. And you'll read a lot more about it in those books. Okay, now, the gift of vulnerability. That sounds a little scary. What do you hear when you hear vulnerability? Call it out. Vulnerability. Do you know what vulnerability is? What do you hear? Oh my gosh, they're going to come to know all my weaknesses. What else? Fearful. What else? Vulnerability. Helplessness. Oh my gosh, I'm exposing myself. What else? Anything else? Being taken advantage of. Okay, there you go. That might be a persistent complaint. Just pay attention to that. Yes, when we're vulnerable, we may be taken advantage of. We may be hurt. Confidential may be broken. That's why when we're vulnerable, we want to choose someone that we know will actually honor and keep confidentiality. We want to find somebody that will hold the space for us to open up so that we can kind of take these things out one at a time and look at them. Because if we don't look at them, they become part of our machinery, and then they become part of us, and then we don't know the difference between us and them. But then when we kind of can vulnerably open up and share them, we can look at them. one of the first ways to become vulnerable that's safe is to have a journal. And you start writing down things that are maybe bothering you or that you're confused about. And you, maybe even all your complaints, you could write them on a piece of paper. Just so you can get them out. Because if you don't get them out, they're going to come out on somebody else for sure. Because you can't hold them in there. So, I'd also like to say, a lot of times in regards to our false ego, we fight with our false ego. We fight a lot with it. We argue. We spend a lot of time arguing. No, I'm not bad. Look how good I am. Look at all the things I did. We argue. We fight. We get distracted. Fighting with our false ego is a resistance. We're resisting the false ego. But if we start to discover and understand it, there may be some strengths are protecting, preventing, producing egos. Those are usually the ones that we put forward. They have some value. We can use them. However, we don't want to use them as a cover for the areas that are weak. We want to also look at these other areas and the persistent complaints we have so that we can start exercising muscles. That's in the second book. There's a lot about muscles to exercise and practices to take on. You know, when we resist, whatever we resist persists. So when we resist how people are and how we are, something's going to push back. Because we're kind of resisting, we're kind of pushing away, resistance. So if we push back on another person, they're going to push back on us generally. If we push back on our ego, it's going to become stronger because we're giving it strength, we're giving it power by saying, I need to push you. I need to push you away. Oh, no, I actually just need to turn on the light. Oh, there you are. Hi, I know you. Yeah, you're that pained part that got hurt when you were little, and yeah, I understand you. Oh, you're that protecting part because you didn't have parents that protected you. So you can understand those parts of you without fighting with them, but without being a slave to them. Does that make sense? So vulnerability is important to discover those hidden aspects that we hide even from ourselves. I talk about this in the second book a lot. I name 12 anartas, 12 habits. And the first two, the top two, does anybody know what Lord Brahma first created in the universe? What's that? No, not person. What thing did he create? Not person. What is the first thing that Lord Brahma created? I'm sorry? 5 kinds of illusion. Self-deception he created. He created self-deception, illusion. Because we couldn't really be here in this world unless we were deluding ourselves that we're something besides a pure part and parcel of Krishna. There has to be some self-deception. However, we perpetuate that denial by pointing the finger outwards. We perpetuate denial that I've got things to work on. We're here because we have things to work on. That's why we're here. But if we don't do our own homework, nobody else is going to do our homework for us. We're trying to do everybody else's homework for them. They don't want us to do their homework, but we're not taking the time to do our own homework. That's why we're here. So we got to break through the denial. And then the other top thing that really prevents us from looking at our weaknesses, we can call them weaknesses or habits, is shame. Shame. We feel so bad. And part of it is related again to the soul itself. when the soul itself realizes that it's not in its constitutional consciousness, and it's not with Krishna, and it's not in the spiritual world, it feels bad. It feels like, oh my gosh, I screwed up. But that gets misinterpreted again through the material mind. And it means not I screwed up, I am screwed up. I'm screwed. I'm a mess. And that disempowers us. We are not screwed up. We are not bad. We are not great. We are part and parcel of Krishna. So that shame covers us so that we keep all those false egos protected. No one's going to hurt me anymore. And we hurt ourselves. We hurt our soul self. We hurt our ability to become God conscious. Now, okay. So, our different egos and even the anartas, a lot of them are protective mechanisms. They're designed for survival because Krishna knew that we wouldn't be able to survive unless he put a lot of mechanisms in. We wouldn't remember to breathe. We wouldn't remember to make our heart beat. We wouldn't, we couldn't figure out how to digest. So he gave us a lot of support to survive. He even gave us protective mechanisms. He gave us an emergency backup, the adrenal system, and he gave us protective mechanisms, fight and flight, freeze and fawn. He gave us all those protective mechanisms. The problem is, what is the problem? Yes, that these protective mechanisms, they're like a fence that we put around a tree. When trees are little, you have to put a little fence around it to protect the animals from jumping on it or, eating the leaves or destroying it. However, when the tree goes bigger, if no one's tending to that tree and paying attention, this happened in New York City, they put wrought iron things around the trees. And right out front of the temple, the bark of the tree was growing around the wrought iron, the thick wrought iron. And I'm like, this fence is going to kill this tree. So I called the environmental department to cut the fence. Our protective mechanisms are there to help us when we're young and very vulnerable and confused and don't know what to do. However, we continue to use those same protective mechanisms as we grow. And then they start hurting us and impeding our growth. We need to be able to understand our protective mechanisms and kind of start to pull them apart so that we don't hurt ourselves. Okay. And when we take the protective mechanism off, we might feel vulnerable. Oh my gosh, I don't have that fence. But if the fence is hurting us, we have to take it down. We have to take it down. Okay, so Krishna gave us not only all those other mechanisms to help us, right? He gave us Super Soul to guide us, right? An internal guidance system. And Super Soul guides us with little tweaks. And mostly we start waking up. Super Soul wants to wake us up. Mostly we wake up when there's pain. When everything's nice, okay, we're flying here. We're just on a glider. We're gliding down. We're just gliding. Everything's fine. Boom. Okay, I have some pain. What's going on here? Now I gotta look. We don't look when we're flying high, but when we hit a rock or something, ouch, pain. And in the material world, interestingly enough, we do everything we can to avoid pain. Everything we can to avoid pain. But pain is a teacher. Pain is helpful. Pain is connected to love. If you love somebody and they leave, you're going to feel pain. Love and pain are connected. The gopis, when Krishna leaves, they feel pain because they love him. If they didn't love him, if they were impersonalists on the Brahmajyoti, Krishna's not here. Oh, what? I don't care. It's fine with me. I'm peaceful. Everything's cool. Because there's no love. With love comes pain, and that pain is sent by Krishna to help us. Okay, so now we don't have a whole lot of time, but I want to just do a little thing about feelings and how important feelings are. Feelings are so important. The pain we feel, the anger we feel, the upset we feel, these are times when we have access to disarm our false ego. And the first thing in disarming our false ego, the first point is to pause before our autopilot reacts. Or if the autopilot reacts, say, oh, I just reacted. Let me pause. Sorry. We need to pause. We need to take a breath and pause. When we feel angry, we need to catch the anger when it's starting to build up, not when it's coming out of the top of our head like a pressure cooker. Once it comes out of the top of the pressure cooker, you better be careful because that lid might hit you in the face. We don't wait until it's coming out of the top. But that means we got to start being conscious. We got to start noticing, I'm feeling irritated. Not like, I am furious. It's like, oh, I'm feeling a little irritated here. I'm feeling a little frustrated here. What's going on? Being curious, asking questions. Okay. I'm trying to see because I can't do all these exercises here. All right. So let's go back to the exercise we did yesterday. And we remember all the complaints we had. So what I want you to do is all those complaints you had about the other person or about yourself, I want you to sit and make it into an observation rather than a complaint. My boss yelled at me. That's an observation. Or even more observing is my boss spoke to me in a tone of voice much louder than I prefer, because yelling could be also a judgment. So just take one statement that you made that was a judgment, take one statement that was a judgment from yesterday and turn it into an observation. Turn it into like something like a news reporter would report. The body was lying on the ground, Somebody waved their hand, or someone took their hand and forcefully put it against my body, or something. Make an observation. So everybody do that. One observation with one of those statements. One observation. Pause and think how to make it an observation. Just do your best. I'm not grading this. You don't have to get it perfect. Just do your best. Okay. Okay, does anybody want to share what the original statement was as a judgment and what it was as an observation? Can anybody share? Would anybody like to? I'm just trying to give an example. Does anybody want to share? We're not expert at this. Okay, can someone pass the mic to him over here who has the mic? The mic. There we go. Thank you. So tell me the original statement that was a judgment and tell me that's an observation.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
The original statement was, so this happened yesterday when I was driving back home.
Okay.
And there was an auto driver who was driving very slowly. And the statement was the auto driver is an idiot, driving slow and blocking the whole road.
Sure is. And so what was your statement?
Yeah, and it didn't stop at that. And it was like, is he the only one on the road? There are so many other people.
I know, oh my gosh.
So the revised statement is, the auto driver was driving slow in the middle of the road while looking into his phone.
Ah,
So
yeah. It's an observation. You take off the energy and then you can look at him. And then the point of doing this is because we wouldn't have a conversation necessarily with the auto driver. But say it was our wife or our child, the child is moving slower than I'd like them to move. It's like, we could then talk to them about how we're feeling. I'm feeling a little frustrated that you're moving so slow because I really need some integrity to get to the program on time. Can you move a little faster? Would you be willing to? So that's compassionate communication. Anybody else want to do an observation? An attempt at an observation, changing a judgment, an evaluation into an observation. Anybody else? Just one more person. Okay, over here. Please pass the mic. Okay. All right, pay attention, please.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
So he or she is always like that. It is his or her nature. That is the complaint that I would be having. And the observation would be, he or she can be himself or herself. What he or she will do. He or she is helpless. He or she is given that samskara. He or she is programmed that way. He or she didn't.
Are those observations? They're tinged a little bit. He or she, what did he or she do? Tell me what they did. Oh, you don't have to tell me. He or she is doing what they're used to doing. That would be it. Because if you say they're programmed, he or she is doing the best they can. That would be more, because the one thing you said is they're helpless. That's a judgment. They're doing the best they can. They're not helpless, but they're doing the best they can. Does that make sense? Okay, thank you. So the purpose of this exercise was really, can you turn this off for me, please? To show us that when we pause to reframe our upset, and we're curious how we can turn that into an observation. Not only can we observe what that person has done, we can start to observe our own feelings and our own needs in response to what that person has done. So this is the first step of compassionate communication, which I mentioned a little bit in this book, and I wrote another book about it earlier. But in the second book, I hope you all noticed, was there a card like this in the second book? A yellow card? Okay. This is a powerful little card, and I made it yellow so you can't use it. And it's small enough so that you can fit it in your shirt pocket or in your purse. When you carry this with you, you have the chance to pause. You say, oh, something's happening. What's going on? You pull out the card, just having the card and pulling out the card, just having it and having to look at it, you're pausing. It's a perfect pauser. You pull out the card, and it's like, okay, what am I supposed to do here? You're pausing, because instead of just running into automatic, which you usually do, you're pausing. So then you transform the evaluative, judgmental statement about what's going on. Oh my God, they're so mean, they don't care, blah, 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 into a statement. They are speaking in a way that I really don't like. They're speaking in a way that I don't like. Then the next thing you do is you look at this one card with the feelings on it. And then you look and be curious, how am I feeling about that? I'm feeling hurt and sad and a little irritated too. And what do I need? And you turn over the card on the other side. I need some respect and some consideration. Just naming your feelings and your needs. I'm telling you, studies, 50% of your upset comes down because now you understand what's going on. You're starting to understand your machinery. And then, if you study compassionate communication more, I have a book on it, and there's other books. I don't have the book here. But if you study it more, you can take the time to pause. What just happened here? How am I feeling? And what am I needing? And the next step is requests, which I can't get into right now, but those 4 little steps, especially what am I feeling and what am I needing? A lot of times we expect our spouses to understand us, right? Especially women. Come on, we've been living together for 5 years. You don't know that I don't like this? No, I didn't really know that. I wasn't really, sorry, I didn't realize that was something I was supposed to pay attention to. If you speak to your spouse and say, you know, when you bring home vegetables that have bruises on them, I feel a little irritated because I have a need for efficiency, and I have to cut out all these bruises. Would you be willing to take a little more time when you're shopping and don't just grab on the top? So he might say yes, he might say no, but at least you're having a conversation about it. And the husband is having a little bit more understanding. And the next time he comes back, you're going to say, okay, now you got vegetables that aren't even ripe. They look good on the outside, but they're not ripe. You got to go back and you got to just feel them a little bit. They got to feel a little. You got to train them. I'm just saying. So that takes 3 conversations, maybe. However, once they get it, and then you don't have to have that conversation and that frustration every single time. And yell at him and him feel, I don't want to go get the vegetables anymore. Forget it. I'm not going to help you. Oh, he never helps me. He doesn't help me. He doesn't care about me. And then it gets into a big mountain that it doesn't have to get into. So that's the gift of compassion. That's the gift of empathy. So when we start understanding ourselves, empathy, self-empathy, it's in the book. When we start understanding ourselves, then we can share that with another in a way that's not judging them or making them wrong. We can just say, hey, I'm feeling a little irritated. I just have a need for, some efficiency in the kitchen department. And, would you be willing to be a little more careful? Just having a straightforward conversation without blowing up, without fighting. And usually people can hear us a lot better when we're not yelling. You'd be surprised. We think yelling, people are going to hear us better when we yell. Mostly people are like, let me out of here. I don't care what you're saying. So if we can say it in a nice way, that's the gift of empathy and compassion. When we can have it for ourselves, when we can name our feelings and needs, we can say, yeah, I am really angry. I am really agitated. I am in a hurry, and this guy is being so unconscious, the guy that's driving from me, he's so slow, and I'm really irritated. And what can I do about that? Well, Just understand that I'm irritated and maybe Krishna is slowing me down. Maybe Krishna is giving me a message that I need to slow down, that I'm running too fast and trying to push everybody out of my way. Get out of my way. This is my road. What are you doing on my road? Driving slower than I want to go. Do I ever look at my phone? I never look at my phone when I'm driving. Ever. Maybe you don't. Hopefully not. Okay. So there's that. And now since we only have 10 more minutes, right? Wow. Time flies when you're having fun here. So I'm going to go into one last gift. So we have the gift of empathy, the gift of integrity, the gift of responsibility, and the gift of vulnerability. So the last gift is the gift of gratitude. Okay? The power of gratitude and prayer is almost unfathomable. When we're complaining and blaming, we're not in gratitude. We're in resistance. We're in unconsciousness. We're in reactive behavior. And that just gets us more what? More samsara. We just keep repeating the same things over and over. We repeat our karma. We say we're stuck in our karma, but we're the ones that keep reinforcing our karma. I show that in the charts in the book, how we reinforce our own karma. We keep it in place. Samsara. So to break that cycle, we got to do something different. We got to pause. And gratitude is another way to pause. What am I grateful for? When we count our blessings rather than our complaints, we might be a little happier, right? We spend a lot of time counting our complaints. If we started counting our blessings, we can be grateful for our body, grateful for our feelings that actually tell us something about what we need. Feelings are like indicators on the car dashboard, right? When the light comes on with the gasoline thing, do we kick the car and say, oh my gosh, why are you flashing red lights? No, we go to the gas station. But when our human vehicle is hungry, sometimes, oh God, this body is such a botheration. Now I have to go eat. Oh my gosh, what a burden, what an interference. It's interfering with my service. Such a resistance. Instead, we could just feed the body and go on. Yeah. So our feelings give us indications of what we need, because left to our own devices, we would all be dead. We wouldn't be able to survive. Krishna gives us these messages, these feelings to help us to navigate, not to frustrate us. It's not trying to frustrate us. We frustrate ourselves, and then we blame it on the body and on other people, and sometimes on Krishna. Why did you give me this karma? We blame it on our karma because we haven't taken responsibility and we're not grateful. Gratitude. Okay. So we have habits. We have strengths and we have weaknesses and we have habits. And we're either practicing our old habits or we're practicing something new. We can always choose a virtue, which I give some steps and muscles that we can exercise. We can always pick one of those and practice exercising that. And when we exercise that muscle, we'll be surprised what we can do. I mean, I've taken physiotherapy. I don't know if you have, but it's kind of miraculous because I couldn't bend my arm behind my back at all. I could barely go like that. But physiotherapy, I can bend my arm way behind my back miraculously because I did the exercises. Okay, so we have conditioned habits, but we can develop new habits. So now I want to say a new year is beginning tomorrow, a brand new year. A brand new year, it's an opportunity. How many of you want to have a brand new life? Okay, so this is the chance of a lifetime here. You're going to start right now. We're starting our new year because we're going to create an intention for our new year. Now, I want to just write something down really quickly. I think I'll take black. Can I go a little bit over time? Is that okay? Just a couple minutes over time. So, sorry about my handwriting. These aren't in the order that I told them to you. But here they are. We want to be a giver, and we want to give service, and we want to give service with a consciousness of joy. We can practice these 5 gifts: gratitude, integrity, vulnerability, empathy, and responsibility. There are more gifts than that. I just went over 5 because of the time period. In the second book, there's a lot of different muscles and steps you can stand on and exercise and practice. But I want each one of you right now, I want you to sit for 3 minutes. I want you to sit for 3 minutes and really create an intention, like an overall intention for the whole year of kind of what you want to create, what virtue you want that's actually really doable. You know, don't say I want love of God. We all want love of God, but that's not going to be something that we're going to get in 1 year. But something that can give us an overall arch of what we can practice. And then even each week you could exercise a different muscle or a different thing within the context. But you want to get an umbrella of something that you want to practice that can really help you. And I'll give you mine. You can pick from these 5, or you can pick any other virtue that you'd like to practice. I'll share mine with you. Life begins at 70. That's one of my statements. I'm going to be 70 next year. The practice I am creating in 2023 is the practice of being present and connected to myself, to the holy name, to others, and to the scriptures. So that's the context. And within that practice, I may take on other practices, but that's my intention. So each one of you create intention. It doesn't have to be that long. It could just be, I intend to practice gratitude. I intend to practice responsibility. Just pick one thing that you think the first kind of thing that you think that you'd like to work on in this year. And write that down, and I want to hear from some of you. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to do that. One intention for 2023. What do we want to create? What practice is the next thing for me to do in my spiritual life? Just the next step, not the ultimate step, the next step. Just one practice. And just put it as one word. I put a lot of words there. That might confuse you. Just put it as one word. The practice I'm creating for 2023 is the practice of gratitude, or the practice of, just pick one thing. Practice of kindness, practice of compassion. Just pick one word. Okay. I'll give you 30 more seconds, but you're just picking one word, basically. One virtue, one word, one thing. Now, did everybody pick a word? Did everybody pick a virtue? Who still needs more time? Who didn't pick something? Okay, we all picked one. So now, because we don't have time for everybody to declare it, what we're going to do is you get a partner, and you're going to declare this to your partner. You're going to declare, you're making a declaration. A declaration, because it makes it much more real. And the way you're going to say it is, the practice I'm creating for 2023 is the practice of, because we're practicing it. We can't say that we have it, but we're practicing it. The practice I'm creating for 2023 is the practice of. So find a partner, and the person who's the tallest goes first. And then you share, you say your statement out loud, declare it to the person next to you, and then switch and the other person shares. So find a partner and share your intention for the year. Find a partner, find somebody, go ahead. The practice I'm creating for 2023 is the practice of, you have a partner? Okay, share. Let me see you sharing. Everybody have a partner? You have a partner? Do you have a partner? You want to share with her? She needs a partner. Yeah? She needs a partner over there. I think it's this one over here. She needs a partner. Do you have a partner? This person's gonna be your partner. You have a partner? Did you share? You have a partner? Partner? Your partner? I'm so sorry. Okay. Did everybody share their intention? Everybody share their intention? Yes. Okay. So now we're going to do it all together. Okay. So your intention is one word, okay? One word. And so we're going to say it together. And then when we get to the part for your word, everybody's going to shout out their word all together in unison. And we're really going to create this as a reality. And it only happens through practice. It only happens through practice. We're practicing every moment of every day. We're practicing. So we're either practicing all of our old habits, or oh my gosh, this is way down. Sorry. Or else we're practicing something new. We're either practicing all of our old habits, or we're practicing something new. And we want to start practicing something new. It's the only way we're going to have a new experience in life. This is a new year. We want a new experience. We want to really be invested and participate in our spiritual life. So we're going to say it together. The practice I'm creating in 2023 is the practice of being grateful, connected, responsible. Okay. Grateful, gratitude, the practice of gratitude, the practice of responsibility. So you take that and you make a chart and you put it either on your refrigerator or on your mirror or on your front door. You put it somewhere. You got to remind yourself. I'm telling you, your old habits will be there in a second. They'll be right there. Now, one other thing. One other thing. One other thing. Are you ready? When your old habit kicks in, no beating yourself up. It's going to kick in. And it probably might even scream really loud. No, we can't be grateful now. Oh my gosh, forget it. Look at this. This isn't fair. It's going to scream. It's going to scream, and you're not going to know what to do. You're not going to know what to do. How can I be grateful now? This is like so, oh my God. Krishna. Oh, my dear Lord Krishna. Oh, my dear Lord Krishna, I don't feel very grateful. Oh, my dear Lord Krishna, how? How? Tell me, how can I be grateful? What can I do? If I were grateful, if I were a grateful person, what might I do right now? Be curious and pray to Krishna. If I were grateful, I'm not feeling really grateful. If I were grateful, what might I do? Please, Krishna. He will tell you something, and you do that. And I'm telling you, you keep practicing, and you keep practicing, and you keep practicing, and you will have new experiences in life. I wanted to thank you so much for your time and for your really intention, and like everybody really participated really fully. I really appreciate that. You have a lot more power than you know you have. And it's by choosing to practice things that are really going to shift your life. So I'm so grateful to you. I want to say thank you to Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada, and thank you for all the devotees. And we still have books up here if anybody didn't get them. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna. And if anybody wants to schedule a little time to talk, or if they want me to sign their books, I'm available to do that. Thank you. Thank you. Happy New Year!
So I'd really like to thank Mataji for spending her time with us and really resetting our thoughts, resetting our emotions, right? How like Lord has given these wonderful gifts to all of us, and how we are grateful to those gifts, and we are grateful to the Lord and grateful to the devotees who are really offering them. So let's thank Mataji once again by loudly chanting Hare Krishna Maha.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you very much.
I like to practice integrity.
So evening we have at 5 o'clock we have Nagar Sankirtan and also Swadhacha that's planned. So we request all the devotees to join full-heartedly to share our gratitude to the Giridhari Mahaprabhu, and not only within ourselves, but we can give this beautiful teachings of the Lord, says the virtues that we can collect from this new year by going out and sharing the gift of the Lord with everybody. So please be there at 5 o'clock. Yes, on the ground floor. Yes, so we have a wonderful feast, we have Swadhacha, and a lot of things being planned, like devotees at River and Vijay a lot of these devotees really coming together. So really looking forward to all of your presence to make it really wonderful.
Can you announce the class tomorrow too?
Okay, so tomorrow. Okay, so Mataji talked about man and woman stuff, right? We have a special program for Matajis. Probably these are not allowed. That's why they are privileged.
We have a class in the morning at 8:30 for the Brahmachari.
Yes, of course. So, okay. Brahmacharis. Okay.
If some men want to come, I'm not opposed to it if the Brahmacharis are opposed to it.
Okay, so we have some special programs for special devotees. So at 2 o'clock only for Matajis and 8:30 for the Brahmacharis, or about to join Brahmachari also. Mataji is available, like for the devotees. You would like to get the book signed, or if you want to speak with Mataji, she is there for some time. Yeah, so if you want to meet with her, speak with her, you can get your schedule, and Mataji will be happy to share.
You guys don't want to leave, huh? It's not the end, it's the beginning.